There's a little bit of my comedy backstory that I have to tell, which was a lot of people that my age filtered through your show either as like cast, through UCB or internships.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not, but I really tried my damnedest. And I wound up getting an interview with Cecile. Did she run interns?
I think she did for a while. It's been a while.
Was before my time, but
Cecilia Pleva was.
Yes.
She was our casting director. Nicole Savini was.
And Cecilia Pleva also played Camel Toe Annie.
Yeah.
A character named Camel Toe Annie who had her own dance and a song, and she would run out and great book. She was great at her job. And then we were like, are you going to be willing to put on this prosthetic and really tight pants? You don't need me to describe what Camel Toe Annie would look like.
It's kind of in the name, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. And anyway, she would run out and do this wild hip grinding dance while the song Camel Toe Annie would play. And so a shout out to her because she was great and a true warrior.
I think I interviewed with her for an internship.
Yeah.
And because when I was a sophomore in college, I cold called NBC Human Resources. I literally called, I called information and got NBC and I said, can I have Human Resources? And then I said, I'm looking for an internship. And they said, well, when's your spring break? Can you come in for an interview? And I came to 30 Rock, literally from a cold call. I got into 30 Rock for an internship, for an interview. And they said, okay, well, you seem like a nice kid. Where do you want to work? And I said, Conan O'Brien or Saturday Night Live. I want to work at Saturday Night Live.
Well, wait a minute. You said Conan O'Brien.
They changed it.
Yeah.
But why'd you have to edit it? Okay. Make sure, Gorley, that you cut out the Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
reference.
right. No, but they said you can't. They said, well, the Saturday Night Live internships are only fall and spring semesters.
Mm-hmm.
So which one of those can you do? And I said, I can't. What are you fucking kidding me? I go to school. I can't.
Right.
In Ohio, I can't go to.
If you use that language, that's probably what you did.
Yeah, and then I was very angry. And then, so I said, well, what else can I do? They said, well, Conan is year round, so you could do that in the summer. And I said, yes, that'd be amazing. And I went. She sent me right down to an interview with Cecilia.
Mm-hmm.
Had a great chat. And then I went back up and they said, well, while you're here, why don't we send you to some other places? So I went down to Channel 4, which was on your floor.
Right across the hall from us.
WNBC, which is the New York City local NBC affiliate, flagship station. I interview there in their press and publicity department. And that and the woman there says, well, it feels like we got a great fit. You got the job. And I was like, oh, okay, great, amazing. But I also had this little pit in my stomach. Like, I think my interview with Late Night went well. I don't know. I guess I have to take this. So I went back to school. Like a week later, Cecilia calls me on my dorm phone and she's like, hey, great news. We'd love to bring you in for the summer. And I was like, oh. And I had this like crisis.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I turn my back on WNBC, press and publicity, that will follow me through show business forever.
It would have.
And I can't.
You don't want Chuck Scarborough on your ass.
Yeah, exactly. And so I told Cecilia that I had already accepted this internship at like literally down the hall, and that I had to just do it. I had to stick it out.
Yeah.
And so
That's
I did.
And
I would walk past your studio every day, just like so sad. And I'd say hi to Cecilia, and she would she let me into some tapings.
Oh, good.
I remember seeing an amazing sketch. Actually, I would love to retell it, but I feel like it's too long. But it was about a chef. It was about one of your guests was an author who had a book, but also when he was scared, he would smell ham or something like that. And
that's my comedy sensibility, America.
And so he's doing this interview with you. And then at some point,
that's why I'm here doing a podcast.
he starts getting really scared during the interview, and it looks like a real interview. Like you guys are playing it super straight. And he starts getting really, really scared. And he's like, But he's like, and you're like, what's going on? He's like, I smell ham. I'm really scared.
Mhm.
And then he runs off to the side of the stage and pulls a curtain, and there's just a guy cooking a giant ham.
Yeah, of course.
And he's like, oh, thank God. It was just an actual ham instead of my fear reflex smell of ham or some just bizarre. And it was more confirmation that this was genius and I was in the wrong place in the press and publicity
it
department.
all worked out fine. And
I guess
love
so.
to say I was absolutely convinced that if I didn't, I've said this many times before, but in 1986, I was convinced if I don't get a job with David Letterman as a writer performer, then I will never, ever, ever amount to anything. That is my only path. And I got real close, didn't get it. And but when I look at everything that's happened in my career, I realize if I had gotten that, I never would have gone to SNL.
Yeah.
Met Lorne. Lorne wouldn't have seen something in me and said, "Hey, maybe he could take over for Letterman." No one else would have done that.
Yeah.
I've told Lorne, I still think it was a mistake, but thank God. And so that's a message I try and tell a lot of young people out there: is you are convinced that there is a way, and there are an infinite number of ways, and it's always going to be different than what you thought.
And this was hard for me to understand too, but I feel like you get the jobs you're ready for.
Yes.
And and when you don't get the job, it's not because you're not capable of it eventually, but for some reason you probably weren't ready for it.